Hey there, Russ here. Welcome back to the shop. Okay, well, get your cup of coffee or your brewski or whatever it is you're going to have. Sit down, relax, and I'm going to take you down an OTB path with me, show you some thoughts that I had. And they are, what does a Wago or a lever nut, lever connector, or a lever terminal, whatever I end up calling it, what does that have in common with my prescription bottles? I know, first thought is, not a darn thing. Well, actually there is a connection, and I'm going to show you. So let's start off with a simple circuit to begin with here. So you have this wire, foghorn, must be a tugboat coming through. Anyway, so you have this wire, you have it connected to your battery source, or your power source, and the other end plugs into a light, and you have this wire that runs throughout it totally. Well, some reason you have to cut that wire. You can't just use one strand of wire. You have to cut it somewhere in the middle. Now you're going to introduce some kind of connector to that. No matter what reason you had to cut it, now you got to join it back together and have a reliable joint. Well, these things are great for that sort of thing. But they do have certain limitations, drawbacks, or potential issues. So I can just take this thing, let's say for example, open it up, and let's just take, and we put our connector on there. And now both of these are all connected, and you're good to go again. Except, now that connection right here can be under stress, where maybe you're tugging on it or pushing the wire to get everything to fit back into a particular place, or whatever the case may be. Or maybe even worse, moisture, water can get in here. Or even worse, some kind of creepy crawler. Yeah, all those things are enemies to connectors. So when you have one in there like this, if you have one on the end, you can put heat shrink on it to help protect that connection between the crimp and the wire itself. That will stop it, because what happens is on the bare wire part that goes into there, right at the end, as this wire wiggles back and forth, it can break those little strands, eventually one of the ways it can fail is eventually it breaks those strands off one at a time until it gets to a failure point. So, in order to reinforce that, heat shrink really helps support that terminal and that wire so that they don't wiggle around and loosen up and compromise. Well, with one of these things, you still have that possibility where twisting them and doing this sort of thing, sooner or later you might get damage in the little wire strands between the wire and where it's clamped down in the connector. So, how do you add protection to this? Like I said, it could be water, it could be just stress, vibration, it could be anything, but eventually it could cause a failure on that connection. So the way to slow that down and make it so maybe it won't happen is, let's talk about how to protect it. You can't do it with heat shrink. I've looked at that and I've tried it, and it really is not a good solution for this type of connection. But there is a solution, and that is where my old faithful prescription bottles that I've talked about in the past a few times and showed you some of the things you can do with them. Well, here's another one. So now we're going to take this and protect this connection in any environment you want to put it in. So instead of putting this directly on the wires, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my top off my bottle and I drill a hole in there, just big enough to fit both wires through the hole in a tight fit. Just like that. And now we're going to put the lever connector on there. And now we have a good connection again, and we can take this. I like to leave this long enough that when it's screwed down, it's touching the lid, pushing against it just slightly. So now I can take this and screw this down on there. Yeah, maybe not. There we go. And now, put a little hot glue on here. And not only will this then now be protected from any kind of stress, Also any water, any dampness, and it'll probably protect mostly from any kind of creepy crawlers that you can think of. So anyway, very simple solution, cheap, and we did it all simply without it costing us a thing. This is just a bottles that I've managed to save that I have a bunch of, and I've turned it into a little connector. So now I know what you're thinking. What's the big deal? Okay, we're done. I guess I'll go now. But no. We're still walking down that OTB path. Now that we see this, let's take this to another level. Let's see what else we can do. Figure out to do with this relationship between these two pieces beyond just here. So let's just keep going down that path. So let's say that instead of you have this wire going from here to here, there's still something missing. And that is circuit protection. So that means an inline fuse, basically. So now we have, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, and I'm going to switch wires just to make it easy for me. So I take this wire, and this is the connection from the power source to plugging it into the light, but we need to put an inline fuse on this so that we have circuit protection with a fuse. Well, the best way to do that is to take your inline fuse holder, cut the wire, and I tend to cut it shorter on one side than on the other. And now we're going to take that, put our little lever connector on the short end. We're going to put our other wire that's going to our power, to our light source. This goes to the load. This one then hooks up to the power source. So now we take this and hook this up at the power source. And in order to protect all of this little mess here and keep them protected, now we can just take our lid, we take our two wires and we put them through the lid like so. And now we can take, and I'm going to talk about this real quick. These fuse holders, inline ones, they have these little rubber caps that go on here, and you have to really work at it to get it pushed on there. And you push it down and you lock it down all the way. They are hell to get back off. I hate these little covers. I just hate them. But they're a necessary evil to protect this. Well, guess what? We're not going to need that stupid lid, that cap anymore. So you get to watch this. This is the fun part. We're just going to get rid of that and throw that thing away. We don't even want it. So now we have this. We put that in the bottle. Bring our lid up. And now our fuse and our connector are both protected without any problem, against any stress. A little bit of hot glue or silicone caulking, and you can even make this thing fully waterproof. And if you need to get to either one of them, it's a simple matter of pulling that off, and now you can get to either one of them, and when you're done, you can just put it back together again. And so now you have an accessible but totally protected connection here along with the fuse, and be able to take the fusing out. So anyway, so now we went a little further down that path. Now just wait, we're not done. No, don't go. So now let's take this to another level. What are we thinking here? Well, what if we take this same idea and now let's turn it into a fuse box. So now I'm going to take a larger one. I'm going to use a 5-way connector. I'm going to hook up my source power to one terminal, and then I'm going to hook 4 different inline fuse holders into the other 4. Take the whole thing, drill 1 hole in the center for all the wires, all 5 wires to come out of. Open it up. Put all my connections on here. Drop everything down in there. Push everything through my wires out of it. And now I have a multiple fuse holder to will protect them from all sorts of nasty things that could happen to them if they weren't in protection. This does the same thing as a simple box fuse panel that you can buy. And those things are not cheap. This is a lot less than $20 between this and 4 inline fuses, or 6, or however many. You have a lot of them. You can even use a larger jar. So now we've turned this whole idea into a fuse holder for all your fuses, and keeps them high and dry in the process. So there you go. So now think about this path. As we go back in from outside the box, from our thinking here, there's one more thing you want to think about. And that is that I said prescription bottles are my friends, and how it's connected to a simple Wago clamp and how they join to each other. This is how. But not only that, as I mentioned for just a second, you can take any bottle that has any kind of screw-on lid, or even this one. I can cut this off anywhere I want and have the right size hole to put all my wires in, and I can use something like this just as easy. So anything that has a flip lid or a screw-on lid, small container, is appropriate for what you're going to be doing the same thing. And if you think about it, if you remember, I'm going to give my age away here. Back years and years ago, they were very common. Those little small containers, plastic ones with the flip lid. You flipped it open with your thumb, and they kept a camera roll inside it, so that when you take it out of the camera, you put it back into it, snap it shut, and you took that to have the film processed, carrying it in that little container. Those little containers, you can buy them for about $1 a piece now in bulk. Those are perfect for doing a single type of connector, using that. So every connection you make, if it's going to be in an environment where you want to protect these connectors, get yourself a box of 100 assortment or whatever of those little bottles, and they'd be perfect size. You could probably even, I suspect, fit a fuse in one, but it depends on the size, obviously. So that'd be one way to have a real handy little box to waterproof your Wago connectors, or any lever connector, or any connector as far as that goes. You could put the same thing and do it with a wire nut and have it protected inside a container so that it's less likely to pull apart. So it can be used in a lot of ways, but the simple little throwaway bottle, and I saved myself actually the possibility of having to buy a whole fuse panel. Instead of that, I just do it with a few inline fuse holders in one of these. Be a little bit cheaper, I suspect, by doing it that way. Anyway, food for thought, any bottle size. I probably should finish this off before I use it, though. Anyway, any bottle size that has any kind of lid that snaps on or screws on is perfect for this type of thing. So keep it in mind, and when you're using these things, if you want to protect them, then think about what kind of container can I use to help protect that thing there. Very easily and simply, and it only takes a couple of minutes extra to make sure you're protected. Anyway, I think that's about it. Oh, for those of you that hung in here to the end, I have a quick update about something. Several months ago, in fact, it was back at the very beginning of August, I was talking about having troubles with this style light. I've been using it in my kitchen, and it's a great light. I like the brightness that you get from it, and the way it diffuses the light and everything. For an LED light, this thing was excellent in there. But the problem with these is that if you run them for long periods of time, and I do have a habit that my kitchen light can be on for 16 hours in any given day, all day long for some reason. Sometimes we turn it on and off through the day, but sometimes it's on all day. This light does not seem to want to hold up to that. This is the one I told you when I did this one. I thought it was a heat problem, and I drilled these holes in it. Brand new, hadn't been used yet, and then I put it in the kitchen, and that was on August 1st last year. I took it out April 1st. It is now blinking. When it's in there for more than 10 minutes, it starts blinking every now and then. It can be very aggravating in the house. I can still use it, but I'm not buying these anymore. I bought a different one, and maybe I'll get that out and show it to you once I get an idea of how well it works out. So we'll see how that one works. So put it on your calendar. April 1st is when I put that one in the kitchen. Let's see how long it lasts. The difference between that and this, those are the aluminum bodied ones. They're not plastic like this. I think these plastic ones just will not hold up under the heat. And I don't think it's necessary how hot they're getting as much as the components inside are getting too warm for what it's running. So I don't think they have that beefy enough. But in any case, I think it'll work fine if you're only using it for an hour or two at a time or less. Like if you walk in a room, turn the light on, then turn around and walk out and turn it off. This thing could probably last for 10, 15 years. But if you're going to have it on all the time, you need to be a little more selective about getting these. So anyway, quick update. I'm done buying these. I bought a different brand. I'm going to try to figure out some way, and it's going to be a project, to recycle these. And I haven't figured out how, that maybe I can actually do several different projects with these lights. So anyway, stay tuned for that. If you have any ideas or suggestions or any thoughts about this, let me know. I hope you learned something here. If you did, any comments, any thoughts, either about that or about my pill bottles or about levers or actually anything, just leave it in the comments. I do enjoy reading it all, and quite honestly, your ideas, they are read by a lot of different viewers later on. So don't be afraid to share. Not only with me, you're sharing with most of the viewers that are on this channel. So a lot of them do come back and read the comments later. I have 2 or 3 that have come back and made a second comment a week or 2 later after reading through the comments. So in fact, I tend to do that sometimes too. I go through and read the comments on different videos that I watch. So I don't always leave comments, but the ones I do watch, I do probably watch pretty much all the time. So anyway, I think that's it. Leave the comments below. If you learned something here or you like this video, hit that like button. Lets me know. I kind of use that as a way to be able to know whether or not I'm doing the right thing. If you enjoyed it, hit that button. It helps me realize that I'm doing the right thing. Anyway, most importantly, if you would please come back again, because I'm nowhere near done. And thank you for coming along on this path, on going down this path of the OTB thinking and trying it on for size. So thanks, and we'll see you guys again very soon.